Here we go. Let's solve this inequality. It's the same thing that we've always done, except if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, we're going to switch this symbol. We'll dive right in when we get there. Let's get b all by itself. You see that inequality symbol right there? He's just like an equal sign, but he's not an equal sign. We're going to treat it the same way. I would like to get b all by itself, and we always want the letters on the left side. So you see this plus 4? I need to get rid of him first. How do you get rid of a plus 4? Subtract 4. I could care less if you show baby steps. I got a question for you. Should the symbol switch? The symbol is a greater than. The symbol switches if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative. I am subtracting 4. Should I switch the symbol? No. So he is still a greater than, and then negative 6 take away 4 is negative 10. Are we okay with that first move? Is b all by himself on one side of the symbol? Nope. How do I get rid of that? Divide both sides by a negative. So a negative divided by negative is positive. Should the symbol switch? The symbol switches if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative. So he is a greater than. What does it switch to? Less than. And what is 10 divided by negative 2, baby? I should have said negative 10 divided by negative 2, but it is a positive 5. You feel okay with that? Then on paper, we got to make our own number lines. Guess what the most important number is involved with it? We need a 5. Are you with me on that? Because that's our critical point. So I'm going to put 5 somewhere in the middle. It really doesn't matter where. I do not think we need to use every one of those tick marks. I'm going to use every other tick mark. But here's a fact, Jack. What should this number be as I go to the right? Bigger than 5 or less than 5? It's got to get bigger as you go to the right. So I'm going to put a 6 right there. I'm going to put a 7 right there. Do you see how I skipped every other one? But that's not enough. You got to finish your scale out. So then I'm going to put a 4 over here and a 3 right there. I want you to have the scale go all the way across, but I don't care if you skip every other space. Does that make sense? Now let's go put ourselves a dot at 5. It's been a while since it was last week. What kind of dot goes there when there's no little bar under there? Open dot or closed dot? It is open. I think we had a 50-50 response. Open dot means it's not included. And then this is kind of like an arrowhead, you know, like guy right there. So like if I drew an arrow on that, which way is that arrow pointing? To the left or to the right? To the left. That's where this dude is. Darken him in, nice and fat. Nice and fat. So I could see him. Fat boy. And just because it's our first one, I'm going to start picking some numbers. You tell me if it would satisfy this inequality. What if I picked the number 4? Would 4 make this statement true or false? All you have to do is look at this graph right here, and it'll tell you, is 4 on the red arrow? Yes. What about 4.2? Yes. What about 6? 6 is not going to work. How about 4.9? Yep, 4.99. Yep, 4.999. 4.999999999. 5. Does 5 work or not work? 5 does not work because that open dot means 5 is not included in our answer set. But why don't we just start at 4? Because of all those other guys. It's like there's 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.9, 4.9, 4.999, 4.99999. Any number that is less than 5 will make that statement true. So I'll just show you. If I put 4 in there, should it work or should it not work? What do you think? Should 4 work? Yes? Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. If I add those together, I get negative 4. Is negative 4 bigger than negative 6? Yes or no? Negative 4 is bigger than negative 6. It's kind of weird because of the negatives, right? But any number that I pick less than 5 is going to make that true. Let's try again. Check it out. Here's our symbol. I want to start by moving the k's to the left side. I don't want the k's to be on the right side. So this guy right here is a minus 2k. How do I move a minus 2k over to the other side? We're going to add and get 6k plus 15. Should the symbol switch? Nope. And there's a 3 left over there. Are you with me on that move? Then I'm going to subtract the 15. So minus 15. If you want to show the baby steps, you're welcome to. I'm kind of doing a little half and half of them. 6k comes down. Symbol. Do you see how I keep my symbols nice and lined up as well, just like we did with the equal signs last chapter? So good. And then what's 3 minus 15? If you need to punch that in a calculator, you can. Negative 12. One more move. What's my move to get k all by itself? Divide by 6. So should the symbol switch, I get a negative 2 over there. Should the symbol switch? The symbol only switches if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative. What did we do to both sides? We divided by positive 6. So should the symbol switch? Nope, 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 nope. So we'll graph it. I'm going to put negative 2 on my number line. I usually just go smack dab in the middle. I'm going to get bigger, which is a little weird for some people because negative 1 is bigger than 0. And then I'm going to get a little bit smaller in that case. And then when we graph, we're going to put a dot at negative 2. What kind of dot? Open dot, which means not included, or closed dot. Open dot. And that's a greater than, so we're going to go to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right. Any number that you pick that's bigger than negative 2 will make that original statement true when you substitute that back in. Our biggest mistake today will probably be using the wrong letter because we're always using X's all the time. You know, watch the letter that they want us to use. All right, let's roll with this guy. What would be your first move? Let's move the p's, right? Do you want to subtract 2p from both sides, or do you want to subtract 3p from both sides? Yeah, and that's against our brain, though, because it's like, oh, I always like to move the smaller amount over. Not in inequalities. We always want to move what's on the right to the left. We want the numbers to be on the left because it's easier to read. So that's going to be negative p plus 5. The symbol did not switch because we did not multiply or divide by a negative. And then there is a minus 10 there. Is that okay? Then my move is to move the plus 5 over to the other side by subtracting 5. And it kind of looks like I got p by itself, but I do not have p by itself. Isn't there a times negative 1 in front of that guy? So I need to get rid of it by dividing by a negative 1 and tell me what I did wrong. I forgot to switch the symbol. Are you with me on that? You got to switch. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negativo, we must switch the symbol. So then we'll go put 15 on our number line and put a few more buddies. Bigger to the right, smaller to the left. Bigger to the right, smaller to the left. Open dot or closed dot. Oh, I also kind of messed up. I didn't notice that. I forgot my little bars right there. So it did have bars with it. I'm so sorry about that. That's my fault. I made an error. Like when you switch the symbol, it never changes that bar. You know what I'm saying? The bar will always be there. It's either switched from greater than to less than or less than to greater than. The bars are still there. So are we cool that the bar is still there? Open dot or closed dot? Closed dot. And then that's going to be a less than. So if the OG had a bar, even when you switch, it's still going to have a bar, right? So here's my question. If I start picking numbers at random, would 15 make this a true statement or a false statement? Does 15 count or not count? 15 counts this time. 15 counts. Cool. One more. I'll let you do this one. Why don't you and a neighbor get this one? I would move the x's to the left side. Move the x's to the left side. My first move is I subtracted 2x over, so I got a negative 5x. And then I want to subtract 18 over from this side, so I'll have a minus 15. And then I need to divide by a negative 5, so I'm really stopping showing a lot of baby steps. If you keep making sign errors, you should probably put some baby steps back in there. Do you see how it became positive in that case? Should the symbol have switched at that last move, though? What do you think? Yes. So we'll put us a 3. And then make a few other friends with the 3. Open dot, to the left, to the left, to the left. Rocking and rolling? Cool. Now let's talk about options. What do you see in this number 5 that is kind of weird? The parentheses, right? There's a 2 outside of it. If I let you do this on your own, I would wager that you would distribute that 2 through the parentheses. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's kind of the long way, though. You know what I mean? It's kind of the long way. Because would you also agree that is a times 2? Right? That is a times 2 out in front of there. And if I take a blind eye to what's in parentheses, We're going to get used to Fawn and Steele doing that. Take a blind eye, don't see it. Could I just get rid of that times 2 by doing something? You could divide by 2. Sometimes that's a good idea and sometimes it's a bad idea, because this number over here, if you divide it by 2, does that come out nice or nasty? That's an even number, right? So it's going to come out nice. But could you imagine if this was just, say, like a -5? Would you believe you would get like a fraction or a decimal back in that scenario? I would not have done that move. I would have distributed the 2 in that case. But to me, I don't want to distribute if I don't have to. I would like to get rid of that times 2 by dividing by 2. Whatever's in the parentheses shall come down. I'm going to show baby steps for you just because. So negative 3m minus 5. You don't need the parentheses, Mr. Fawn and Steele, because we've used that up. And then negative 28 divided by 2 is negative 14. Are we okay with that? But there's one question I have for you. The most missed thing, should the symbol have switched? What did we divide both sides by? 2. 2. So the symbol does not switch. Are you okay with that? Right, the symbol did not switch. Solve for m with a neighbor. So I will add 5 to both sides, and that would be a negative 9 over there. Then I shall divide by a negative shui. My pen would work. And that symbol should definitely switch because I divided it by a negative. So 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. Would you like many years of math experience? Just kind of telling you, today we will dominate this. In like a month, what people will kind of forget about. Would you like to know that? What that symbol means? They're like, does that mean greater than, or does that mean less than? You know what I mean? Does that mean greater than, does that mean less than? It's like, I kind of forgot. So here's how I kind of have a couple ways. One, I like to always think of it like an arrowhead. You know, forget that it has a bar underneath it. Sometimes they have a bar, sometimes they don't. Which way does that arrowhead point? To the left or to the right? To the left. That is for a less than. If it was a greater than, you see it like points to the right. Other things that some students like is they like to see like that number right there, or excuse me, that symbol right there. If I asked you what letter of the alphabet that looks the closest to, what does that look the closest to? A capital L for less than. You know, it's like some people like that in that case. You know, so cool little things. Is there a number outside parentheses on this guy? I would like to get rid of that first instead of distribute it. It is a times -1. How can you get rid of a times -1? We shall divide by a -1. And that will pull ye old symbol switch. Ye old symbol switch. If you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, the symbol shall switch. Or knock that. But then, after that, I will divide by a 2, and that does not switch the symbol. You will also have to graph these on the computer just like you did on homework. The only thing that you don't have to do is put your own scale. I think sometimes we get the negatives backwards because the concept is backwards, you know. So, open dot or closed dot? Closed dot. To the left or to the right? To the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. Cool with that? Or did I mess up? Is that all right? Sometimes I mess up. Nice. We got some tricky phrases right here. You know, the magic thing is all these inequalities, the one word in front of them has to be is. Do you remember back when we were doing equations, is stood for the equal sign, you know? Is doesn't always stand for an equal sign. Is means there is a symbol. It could be an equal sign. It could be an inequality symbol as well. So when they follow with the phrase like greater than or less than or things like that, at most, at least, there means there's got to be a symbol there. So here's what we'll do. Whenever they ask us to define a variable, if they don't tell us what letter to use, we'll use X. Is that okay? Your homework might have you use K's and N's and things like that, so read carefully. But they say a number decreased by 10 is greater than -5. Can you find the word is? And is there words like greater than, less than, at most, things like that? So let's circle that whole thing. Is greater than. That is the symbol. Is greater than, ba-boom, right there. Literally translates to the greater than symbol. Whatever's to the left of that circled thing will be on the left side of the inequality. Whatever's on the right will be on the right side. Remember, we had some backwards phrases, though, back in the day. Remember more than and less than. Those sound a lot like inequality symbols. If there's not the word is in front of it, it is not a symbol. It is a subtract or an add. So a number, what would you like to translate that to? X decreased by, that would be subtract 10 is greater than, there's my symbol, negative 5. Cool. So they'll say write an inequality. We have done that. Do they ask us to solve it? Yes, they do. So let's get X all by itself. Yes, they do. So we shall add 10. Do they ask us to graph this? No. You can see on paper if they don't put the little number line thing, you don't have to graph it. Rock on? Cool. Find a symbol. Looking for the word is. And right after it, it says is less than. And uh-oh, I messed up. Is there more words after is less than? Yeah, the or equal to kind of throws us off. So it's the whole thing, is less than or equal to. So that is this less than symbol and the little bar underneath it as well. And then here we go. More than, do you remember from way back in chapter 1? More than is a backwards phrase. So whatever is on the left of the more than will be on the right. Whatever is on the right of it will be on the left, and it means addition. So that's not 7 plus x. It's x plus 7, which is kind of weird because adding doesn't matter what order. But when they want you to type it in, it does, especially if that was a less than. What does less than mean? Not add, but subtract and backwards. Boom. Nice. Let's solve that for x. Simple, simple day. How do you feel about my final guy right there? All right, I'll let you guys translate the next one. Find a symbol, see if you can translate it. More than and less than are backwards phrases. Is more than, is less than are symbols. Is at least. Of course, this chart tells you what symbol to use, but you won't have that chart on our quizzes. Is at least is greater than or equal to. That's like my wallet. If I have at least $20, I can have greater than or equal to. 15 is definitely over here. Here's the other operation, the less than. Is that a normal phrase or a backwards phrase? Backwards. So x minus 20, because those need to switch around. And then one more. And one more. A number plus 2 is at most 1. The most amount of extra credit you could have gotten was 3. Is at most. Less than, what about an equal to? The most amount of extra credit you can get is 3. Can you get 3? So, or equal to. A number plus 2, that is not a backwards phrase, is at most 1. That number is less than or equal to negative 1. What do you think?